So here's the deal. Any human with a pulse has suffered a limiting belief or two. It's in our nature to question things, especially ourselves. None of us are immune to that, and we are certainly not alone. But where limiting beliefs become a real problem is if they're getting in the way of living the life that you want. Do you feel like they're hijacking your sense of happiness? Are they playing on a loop in your head over and over, these hushed, self-deprecating one-liners repeating in the background of your mind day in and day out? Are they guiding your decisions? Are they fueling a fear that keeps you so paralyzed that you're stuck in a life that you just can't stomach anymore? I'm willing to bet that at least once a limiting belief has dropped you smack dab in the middle of a pity party.
Hi, table for one, sad sack, will never be good enough, please.
We beat ourselves up and exert so much freaking energy just convincing ourselves that we're never going to amount to anything. But that stops now. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Joey. I am a full-time work-from-home, stay-at-home mama, an author, and the person who's here to encourage you to become the main character in your own life. Now, let's kick some limiting belief booty. So why do we end up here? Why does this happen? Or more like, why does it keep happening? Maybe you've ended up here before where you've realized that your limits aren't actually real. You get fed up and you decide, nope, I'm going for it, like really gonna go for it. And then you end up, yep, you guessed it, right back in the same rut. Well, there are a number of reasons these limiting beliefs creep in and poison our lives. Some of these beliefs are the product of things we've been told about ourselves. You see, our subconscious holds on to those things and it actually uses them to make up the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. Others are products of the so-called proof that we've collected throughout our lives. For example, maybe you have the belief that you're bad with money and the $26 in your bank account is what's providing that proof to you. The psychology behind limiting beliefs is actually kind of fascinating. So if you have the time or like the desire, you really should do like a little digging on the subject. But if you're like, nah girl, just give me the goods. The important takeaway here is that these limiting beliefs didn't just crop up all of a sudden. No, those suckers have been brewing for a good long while. And undoing them, unlearning them, is gonna take time. I know it's frustrating to hear that, but the good news is that you're already ahead of the game because you're here. You're curious about what's holding you back and you're self-aware enough to recognize like, hey, something seems a little off. Like, let's get to the root of this and see what's going on. So before we get too far into this, I want you to take a second and give yourself the credit that you deserve for starting down this path. Because guess what? Healing from all of the junk that we carry around with us from our past is never easy. And many don't have the guts to do it. Not that I can blame them because it took me a hell of a long time to get here. So where do you start? Step one, you gotta diagnose them. You may already know this, maybe you don't, I don't know, but self-loathing beliefs are actually coping mechanisms to avoid failure, frustrations, and disappointment, which is kind of hilarious because I don't know about you, but the cycle my limiting beliefs had me in was full of nothing but frustration, failure, and you guessed it, disappointment. So you just gotta love that irony. You might think diagnosing them is hard, but it's actually a lot easier than you think because, spoiler alert, you already know what they are. You feel them, they're rooted deep in your soul. You try to push them out of your mind, sure, but if you get still, if you get quiet enough, they'll work their way to the surface. So you know what I'm gonna tell you to do because it's what I always tell you to do. You're gonna wanna pull out your handy dandy notebook. Blues Clues? Anybody? No? Okay, never mind. You want to journal. In this case, it's probably best to just do a free write and you'll wanna use the prompt, I want blank, but blank. For me, fear is usually what is getting in the way. So then I have to take a look at what I want and dissect where that fear is rooted. For example, I want to live like a financially comfortable life, but there's never enough money. In that case, I know where that limiting belief comes from my childhood, where I believe there was never enough money and we couldn't afford certain things. Looking back now as an adult, I have no freaking clue if that was actually real or not, but it is certainly what I was made to believe. And you know what? Living with that belief, not fun. It's really not fun. Step two, you've got to recognize that it's just a belief. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, maybe it was true at one point, maybe it'll be true at some point in the future. But the reality is a belief is a belief. We get to change the narrative. We get to rewrite the script anytime we want. If you have a tendency to go negative, I double dog freaking dare you to start flipping the script and swing positive. If our minds are powerful enough to convince us that the worst case scenario is true, imagine what your life could look like if you just got delusional for like half a second and convinced yourself that the best case scenario was your belief. Also, can we talk for a second about the fact that getting negative is just as delusional as going positive, so I know we have it in us. Step 3, you've got to challenge that mother. Oh, sorry. You've got to challenge the belief. Once you recognize that it's just a belief, you're that much closer to unlocking your potential. Like I mentioned earlier, maybe the belief is rooted in something real, maybe it's not, but either way, the belief has attached itself to something strong enough to grow legs and take off running. So how do you do that? How do you challenge the belief? Remember the handy dandy notebook? Go ahead and grab it. You'll want to reflect on what you discovered when you were doing your free write during step 1. You likely did a lot of the heavy lifting at that point, but let's take things a little bit further. To challenge the belief, you're going to want to ask yourself questions like, is this belief really grounded? What facts support this belief? Have I always thought this way? If not, what changed? Is there maybe some evidence that contradicts this belief? What would it look like if I believed the opposite? Step 4, acknowledge the potential damaging consequences of holding on to the belief, or the beliefs if you have many. This might seem pretty simple and like one of those Joey kind of things, and it is, but let me tell you, there is tremendous power in actually acknowledging what holding on to the belief is doing to you and your life. When we look at it head on, we realize that we're just hurting ourselves, that this belief is literally doing absolutely nothing positive or productive for us. In fact, it's having a negative effect on us. So why are we so hell-bent on holding on to it? And that brings us to our 5th and final step. Adopt a new belief. Did you know you could do that? I know I mentioned it earlier, but like, y'all, we actually get to decide what we believe and what we don't. It's as simple and as difficult as that. We just have to retrain our brains, which, yes, that's simple, sure, but it's not exactly easy. It takes commitment and consistency. Think of it like training for a marathon. There will be some days where your run feels really easy and like you could go for 100 miles and never ever get tired. But then there'll be other days where you're very short and what should be a fast run feels like running through mud. That's totally and completely normal. The trick is to just stay committed to the cause, because remember, the work that you're doing and the work that you're putting in is tough right now, but the more you do it, the more you stay committed to it, the bigger and better effect it will have in the long run. And y'all, you deserve that. You deserve to believe in yourself. You deserve to think highly of yourself. We were all taught so aggressively as kids not to be selfish or conceited. It gave us almost like this allergic reaction to thinking anything positive about ourselves. But guess what? You're actually allowed to like yourself. You're allowed to think that you're strong and capable. You're allowed to think that you're actually good at certain things. You want to keep your ego in check, sure, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a healthy level of respect for yourself. And that's what I want for you. If you get absolutely nothing else out of my channel, I hope that you get to this place where you can finally look at yourself in the mirror and think, I'm actually really glad that I'm me. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. If you liked today's video, it would mean a lot to me if you'd hit the thumbs up button, maybe subscribe, hang out with me every week. I post new videos every Monday. And while you're down there doing all the things, go ahead and comment and let me know what's one new belief that you want to adopt. I'd love to encourage you on this journey that you're on to becoming the main character in your own life. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Bye!